then whose reality are you creating? Ooh, you know, people have said the non-playable character.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, they're a non-playable character. You become a non-playable character if you're not listening to yourself.
Our guest today is Veronica Mercado, a transformational strategist who guides visionary leaders to break free from subconscious blocks. Veronica uses a blend of somatic release therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and cellular resonance quantum healing to help leaders enhance their relationships, create lasting transformations, and the reality that's true to themselves.
A lot of the high achievers that I've been working with, their challenges are just being at peace with themselves.
What are some of the most common subconscious blocks? What is the quantum field? How do you think that our thoughts and emotions influence the reality that we experience?
It plays a role in...
What is the most common challenge usually people approach you with to get help for?
The top things that I've seen people struggling with are anxiety. They are one in dealing intimacy and really self-acceptance with themselves. And also when they're in a life transition and they're not quite sure of what to do next. So they either came from a divorce or they lost their job and they're in this space of new possibilities, but they're not quite sure how to move forward in this new chapter in their lives. So they are challenged with the option of so many choices, but there's almost this paralysis of how to move forward. Often people are also struggling with this feeling and sense of stagnation. So they know that they want to leave their job or they want to start a new project, but it's going to require a new version of themselves. And they're in this space of not knowing what that looks like.
I think like what you are mentioning already resonates with me so much because the people who I'm in touch with and the people who I've been also guiding to the right kind of coach, guide, mentor, this is exactly the biggest challenge that they have. When we talk about new chapter, we are not necessarily talking about a new chapter that's necessarily like a great chapter. It can be also almost like a negative chapter as well. Let's say that when you have to deal with grief or you are going through a divorce or things are just not where you wish them to be, or like you are going through some health challenges, for example. How is it that you help them? What do you do for these people who are entering into this chapter and they are facing this new reality?
Well, first, I help them understand that it is completely normal, whatever they are feeling. So they get to have a basis of acceptance. At the very start of whatever they're going through, it's important that they accept where they're at. If there's any energy of judgment or resentment that's common to be there, then that also adds on to the level of grief or loss that they've already been experiencing. I also support them in recognizing that grief and loss is also just the beginning of a new life. So what we can go through suffering in the old ways of our being, our old self. Whenever we go through a different change in our lives, there is a loss, there is a grief. So allow yourself to go through the emotions. I think people also often are like, this is a change, I should already just be fine with the situation and suck it up and move on. And what I'm finding is that people are not really acknowledging their emotions. And if we're not acknowledging our emotions, then it becomes pent up and stuck energy, and we're not then able to make clear decisions.
So true.
Because our emotions are just piled up on top of each other. So I invite people to accept everything, accept where they're at, as well as even accept the emotions that are coming with that. And I'd want to also emphasize how we can't grow in life, we can't expand without a certain level of loss. Like that does not happen. And I see each loss or each maybe disappointment of thinking how life was going to turn out and is turning out a different way as really an unveiling of what are parts of you that you were perhaps avoiding, that it's presenting itself. And these parts of yourself, you can have a new relationship with it. Are they parts that you are going to then let control your life because they could have been operating in a subconscious level? Or are you going to move forward in a new way with making new choices and showing up? And all the time, I emphasize as well as the power of choice, the power that people have, the ability to make a new choice. And from that, the past does not control them, but it can inform them. And so in being present with what is and having a firm grasp of who they are and how they want to show up in the world, then that's the space that they get to make those choices and create the life that they desire.
I think there's so much to unpack there. So, for example, the thing that you mentioned about emotions, that some people tend to bottle up emotions and they don't properly process them and release them, and then it gets stuck somewhere. And my friend has this concept, it's called emotional bandwidth. So you have a certain amount of bandwidth that you can deal with stuff in your life. So everything is kind of like fighting for your attention. Things are happening to you, that someone just got at front of you in traffic, or the computer broke down and I have this many projects to deal with and I have this person who I have to deal with. Like all of these kind of impulses kind of like occupy a certain level amount of real estate in your emotional bandwidth. And if you just keep emotions unprocessed in that system, you have so little room to play with. And this is where people just lose their shit. They explode, they just spill out and vomit all of this stuff on others, right? So that's also a very important thing to properly deal with. And this is what you also help them with. How do you do that exactly? So what's the method that you use?
Yeah, I use variations of methods. So one is cognitive behavioral therapy. So just recognizing what's coming up in their life. And so it's talk therapy and also getting an understanding of the situation, reframing situations. Another modality I use is also somatic release therapy. So it's allowing the body to tell the story. So it doesn't involve any kind of mental talking, more so of just getting the body to release, to shake, to be in a space where it can just release, in a space where it feels safe. The other modality that I use for emotional processing is cellular resonance quantum healing. And this technique also supports in allowing people to process their emotions.
So this is the one that we also did together, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you maybe just explain what it is exactly and what's the science behind it?
Cellular resonance quantum healing identifies the root causes for symptoms. The symptoms can be emotional, where you're going through depression or anxiety. They can also be physical symptoms where you may have a backache or you have chronic symptoms like diabetes or serious health issues. And we identify the root causes of those issues. We release the subconscious programming and we repolarize, meaning that we bring the body back into a neutral state. And so I'd want to bring this back to its scientific basis and understanding of the body. And what quantum is that everything, matter, protons, it is in a state of vibration. So everything has an energy and frequency. And also with that, the observation of that matter can shift. So meaning our thoughts and our realities can have actual physical reality implications. It shifts our reality. So when we are going through something in our life, it can be tracked that we have experienced something in the past, as well as also possibly something that our parents have experienced in the past. And what that looks like is our body can be, when there's a stressor in our lives, it comes up in a fight or flight response. So in that fight or flight response, then we hold on to that frequency and the energy. It's like that energy then is trapped. So that frequency is trapped, where then we are going to continue to play those beliefs in our systems so that our reality gives us the evidence to confirm our beliefs. So if we were abused when we were younger and our family told us we didn't matter, we are carrying that energetic imprint and that vibration within our body, within our energetic field. So then in our lives, as we grow up, we are going to see evidence to prove that core belief, that core wound. So until we do different things, cellular resonance quantum healing is one, or people go through a number of different healing modalities out there to do that work. Until we reprogram those subconscious beliefs, then we will be replaying those stories in our lives. We're literally shifting our reality in our interactions to fit our beliefs and our wounds. And with cellular resonance quantum healing, we approach the body as this, I would say like this technology of information. And with the quantum field, it accesses the information that is in the field. That is like your body's information of what it's holding.
What is the quantum field?
So quantum field is really the fact that everything is connected, that we are all part of everything in this reality in existence is all part of this field. And the technique that I use access this information so that it tells me what the interferences are, or what energy is presenting itself in your body right now. So if you say, I'm fine, I feel great, I can ask the body, what is in the field, or what is an energetic imprint that's associated with that comment of, I feel great, I feel fine. And let's say if you were abused when you were a child, there could be another frequency in there, like this feeling of unworthiness or abuse that's actually there. That frequency that we don't realize is playing in the subconscious, in the energetic field, is what is causing the beliefs in your system. So when we recognize that, first you get to recognize that belief, and then we clear that belief, and then we bring the body back into neutrality.
So if I get this correctly, the quantum field is the field of infinite possibilities. So let's say that if you look at it as a computer, so the quantum field would be the program that's running in the background that contains every single possibility that we can tap into. And throughout our upbringing and history, we take certain parts of that information, we store it in our self, in our subconscious, in form of beliefs. And those are beliefs that you identify throughout the sessions that this is a belief that, let's say, I'm holding on to that's not serving me.
Exactly.
And this is how you you have your own technique, how you identify those beliefs, and then you also have a process that helps people to release those beliefs.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
So I love that you compared it to the computer. And this technique started from my teacher, Dr. Doug Lair. So under his training, this is then what I've been practicing with people and my clients. And I love how you explained it, that we are this supercomputer, and we're able to then delete what doesn't serve us, because in that infinite possibility, then we're programming ourselves into a belief that is most true to our highest essence. And from my belief, which is it's love, it is trusting in self and self-acceptance.
So you mentioned emotions, you mentioned beliefs, you mentioned reality. How do you think that our thoughts and emotions influence the reality that we experience?
It plays a role in everything that we've experienced. So what has happened in the past and how we interpret what happens in the past also then connects to then how the type of experiences that we are living in our lives. So I shared with you my mom's appendix bursting, a physical symptom of something that she was grieving, dealing with grief and emotions that she was holding onto and she wasn't able to process. So then it showed up as a physical ailment. So if you are not addressing or allowing yourself to connect with your emotions, it's going to show up. You really cannot run away from it. You cannot avoid it. The more we try to avoid it, then it'll come out, as you were saying, in an outburst, coming out in unhealthy ways, or coming out in illnesses.
So this is how unprocessed emotions can manifest in physical form.
Yes.
But how is that even possible? Because when you look at, we live in the material world, how is it possible that my thought that I hold in my mind can become physical? So I cannot just think of I think of money and suddenly there is going to be money. So how do we explain this? So what exactly happens with our thought that's going to make it real in a physical form?
There is the law of attraction. You're familiar with the law of attraction? So energy, with the law of attraction and also observation, our attention and our energy impacts our physical space.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is the observer effect, right?
Yes.
Which explains that the moment you observe a phenomenon,
It alters.
It changes.
Exactly.
So what it also tells us that us being the observers of our own lives, we have the ability to alter our reality.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the way we observe things are impacted by the things that we hold in our mind in form of thoughts and emotions. So that's how those thoughts and emotions become real.
Reality.
Okay.
Exactly. So our observations doesn't come necessarily from this clean, neutral space. And that's the space that we'd aspire to, right? To be in this space of abundance and prosperity. But there's different things that have happened in the past that have affected our observations or affected our way of looking into things, where though we may think I've said so many affirmations about abundance and prosperity and it's still not working, it's because it's not necessarily getting to the subconscious and the energetics realms of it. So it also goes beyond the thoughts. It's reaching the energetics that with cellular resonance you have access to.
So what it means is that even though I consciously say that I believe I can turn 120 years old, if subconsciously I don't believe it, that still gives like a false confirmation to this belief, so it's not going to be real.
Exactly.
This is why we need to work with what's in the background.
Exactly.
And that's what you are helping with.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are some of the most common subconscious blocks that you see people experience in their career, in their health or relationships?
A lot has been around birth, actually, our birth story. Yes. So what comes up is either the situation that our mothers were experiencing. So while we were in their womb, they may have been going through anxiety or depression. And so these things we would not even have known that exists. But when you're in your mother's womb, you're like 90% water as a fetus. You're absorbing everything that she's experiencing. So we don't know that we get to address those things that she was experiencing. So if we don't know that those things are needed to be addressed, then we're kind of going through life unaware, right? Another aspect that I found a lot for people's blocks is the ability to forgive. So people they're holding on to this story that they have been betrayed. So in this part of them being betrayed, they're either getting a sense of being a victim or not being able to trust that person. And in them not being able to trust that person or forgive that person, you can also see patterns of that kind of same role or scenario play out in their life again. It happens again, where then they're getting betrayed. So then they have this lens of that they can't trust people. So when you're able to forgive and accept and process that emotion, one of the protocols in this practice is the practice of recognizing the dark role that this person played.
The dark role.
Yeah, there is a dark role that people have played in our lives that actually is for us. It serves us because in that space of something that if they've done some kind of harm to you, then you actually can turn that pain into your passion. That you might have heard that before, like instead of taking something that's like a hardship that actually becomes kind of like your superpower.
It's almost like becomes a blessing.
Exactly. So when you recognize this role that person played in your life and accepting like that's their dark role, and also you forgive them for the harm that they have done, then you're letting go of the energy and the friction and the blame that you have towards that person. So when you have this energy of blame towards that person, that means that energy that could be towards your passion and your purpose is getting split. So it's focused on that pain, on like, you did me wrong, and I'm going to be over here. But you're not really fully taking your full energy and focus into all that you can do. I see it. You talked about the bandwidth of the emotions, and it's similar. You can be in this tug of war with yourself if you are kind of in a hidden battle with that thing that has happened in the past, right? We can say, oh, we've moved on. But until we really forgive and recognize that person's role in your life could have, like you said, been a blessing, then we have this leaking energy that's focused on that. And so what you'd want to do is be in this process of forgiveness so that you are reclaiming that energy back to yourself. And then in that space, you are then able to focus on whatever it is that you're creating in your life.
That's so interesting because do you know that feeling when you want to work on something, so you give your full attention, energy to that thing, but your mind starts wandering and you think about your problems or the person who betrayed you or let you down, and it kind of like still bothers you. And that's a very obvious sign that you have not processed it yet and you are not over that experience yet. And I think this is what you explained with that energy kind of like leaks out, because every single second when you think about someone's wrongdoing towards you is kind of like stealing energy from you.
Exactly.
Energy that you could channel to the direction where you want it to channel. How do I know that I have actually forgiven someone? Even though, let's say, I don't think about them, how do I know that I have successfully forgiven them? What does it feel like?
I would say it's a process, and it comes in waves, because sometimes you may not think about them, and then sometimes it comes up again in order for now it's time to reprocess. The feeling is, when there is a space, I'm just going to a space of when they come up again, it's either, do I clinch, right? Is my body clinched at that thought? Or it's like, oh, they're there. Or is it neutral? If it's, oh, they're there again, okay, and it's neutral, then they're more at a distance, meaning that energy is more at a distance, and they could still be around in your field, but you are still focused and you are doing what you get to do. But if their energy comes and it really actually ignites something in you, where they come up again and you're like
you have almost like a physical
reaction.
reaction.
You have a physical reaction. Then you're like, oh, then actually they're still having a heavy weight on you. It doesn't...
Some residue.
Yeah. The residue is a lot stronger, meaning like they're right here, they're this close to you and you can physically feel them, versus if they're around and they're right there. And then maybe you can feel them or they come across you and they're like so far. You're like, okay, I thought about that, but I'm going to continue in my life. Like, thank you for showing me of what I needed to learn, and come back into your space.
And I guess when we talk about forgiveness, it's not just about forgiving other people, but it's also about forgiving ourselves.
Yes. Oh, that is the biggest. I feel like we can be the biggest judges, harshest critics, and we get to forgive ourselves is one of the most powerful tool, talking about creating the life that you desire. It's a constant practice of forgiving self. The process of forgiving self, I'd want to bring up also Dr. Hugh Lin from Hawaii. Have you heard of Ho'oponopono?
Say this one more time.
Ho'oponopono.
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 No, I have never heard about it.
Ho'oponopono. So he did this practice in a mental institution, and the patients there before he came were considered just very high extreme, like disorder and aggressive. And when he did this practice of Ho'oponopono with them, then it showed like transformational signs of the staff, of the patients, to be in this space of really just calm. And it's the practice of, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. If you'd want to do more research on him, he's great in seeing emotions and everything as like data. It's just information. It's when we have something about our emotion of like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling like this. Like we're creating another stress point. We're creating like another tension. But if we just allow our emotions to come through and seeing it as information, it's easier, what he also calls clearing data. So I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And when we say that, and in his terms as clearing data. It's like we are providing ourselves this clean slate. It's like we're cleaning our energetic field. We're cleaning
Just by saying it.
just by saying it, by continuously, kind of like this mantra, saying it and meaning it.
So you're almost like self-hypnotizing yourself.
Exactly. He also does a practice where you bring in your inner child. He talks about how your inner child, as well, is like your, if we want to go into the spiritual side, your soul. And your inner child can be a gauge of like where you're at. And if you bring in, that's, your inner child can hold on to a lot of the pain and the suffering that it has experienced, right? And in the past, it's your inner child. So it holds on to this information of wound. And when we bring our inner child in, you're asking them to let go. You're asking them to let go of the wound and the heartbreak and being like, I'm sorry that happened to you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And what you're doing is like you're saying that to yourself. Like, I'm sorry I was a horrible person. I'm sorry I said that to you. I'm sorry I felt like I wasn't enough. I'm sorry I didn't do the things that I said I was going to do. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
So this is also a proof that our words have power.
Yes.
Over not just us, but over everything in our lives. Does this mean that if I just shout affirmations to myself in the mirror, that's going to become real?
Well, we talked about how there's an interference. It doesn't get to the energetics of your actual field and doesn't get to your subconscious. So he offers this protocol in a meditation. So in the meditation, that's when you're more susceptible to reprogramming your subconscious beliefs. There is, I believe you'd be in a theta wave state. So it's not like shouting like, okay, let's do it, come on. You may get there to a certain degree of feeling really good about yourself, but it doesn't last necessarily that long, right? So when I've done this practice, I've done it right before I go to bed and right after I go to right before I go to bed and when I wake up in the morning.
Oh, because this is when your brain frequency changes.
Yes, that's when you're in the theta state, and that's when you can receive this, like the subliminal, the messages that you are saying I'm consenting to program myself with.
Because I saw this video, I can't remember who it was from, and he was saying that try to remember the last thought before you fall asleep.
Yes.
And that thought becomes reality.
Yes, exactly.
So this is the explanation of that.
Exactly. So my teacher actually, one of my teachers before Dr. Doug, shared with me that life is just actually preparing us for death. Meaning, are we going to be able to have our last breath of this life be of forgiveness, be of love, be of I've done everything that I've done, or forgive myself that I maybe have not done everything that I've done. But can we take that last breath and bring that peace to ourselves? If we are not able to let go of this life and we are actually there's resentment or pain or struggle, if you believe in multiple lives, that we're going to take that into our next incarnation.
Yeah.
And even before just the incarnation of the next life, what your teacher was saying or what your friend was saying about your last thought before you go to bed, that's what you'll be taking with you when you wake up in the morning.
I've been trying to practice that myself as well. And it's so interesting that in many cases, my last thought the night before I fall asleep is going to become my first thought the next day.
Exactly.
Yeah, I also noticed that. So you help people to address all of these subconscious limitations.
Yes.
Right? How can you explain that some people are able to achieve like massive breakthroughs as they are addressing all of these subconscious limitations, while others still seem to stay stuck in the exact same cycle where they were before. So what do you think that sets these people apart?
I'm going to say that everyone is different and everyone's journey is different. So there is I believe, this perfect design and order for us to experience this life. And the more that we compare ourselves to other people, the more that we are losing focus and insight of what is possible actually in our current state right now. So I would let people know that everyone is different, and it's not going to go through this one ceremony and everything is solved, like what people may often think is like,
that's what most people expect.
yeah, they're not doing the work in that case.
Yeah.
There is, now you have the awareness, but now you get to integrate and practice. So the work is not, I'm going to go to this breath work class, or I'm going to go to this plant ceremony. That is, I would say, that's part of the work. That's part of the tools and technology that are here for us. But actually, the work is choosing something different. It's being confronted with a choice that maybe you would have in the past chosen fear, that now you're going to choose trust, and you're choosing something different. And that part of it is the actual rewiring of your system, because now you're getting empirical data and evidence of a new system. You're like, oh, I did this thing that I used to be afraid of, and now I feel safe. So then your body is reorienting itself to this feeling of safety versus where it was feeling unsafe with the same choice set.
The reason why I'm also like asking this, or just making a comment on that, is that most people who are in my network, or people who I work with, or people who I give recommendations to, they are usually in like high positions, entrepreneurs themselves, founders and executives, like high achievers. So I can see how they are already wired, that they are looking for efficiency. So they are like, okay, so if I go and do this thing, like what am I going to feel like the same day? Like, how is my life going to be different?
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
And I often say, actually, the high achievers and the founders, the shift is actually not the immediate results, because that's what they're used to. The shift is something of a challenge for them, which could be also being at peace with nothingness, with being at peace with, wow, this is, you just get to be, you just get to enjoy being and being with yourself. So I'm glad you mentioned the founders and a lot of the high achievers that I've been working with. Their challenges are just being at peace with themselves. So their journey looks different, because then they just get to accept themselves, and they don't need to get validation from their high achievements. Instead, they are receiving the validation that they just get to be.
That's something that I think a lot of people find extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Just to even grasp the idea that, okay, I may not see anything right after. It's going to take some time. Maybe I'm not even going to see any difference for like a month or so. And I just need to make my peace with that.
Yeah.
So this is where trust is very important.
Yes.
Not just in the modality, but trust in yourself.
Exactly.
Like not necessarily your conscious self, but your subconscious self, or just like your soul, that you are making progress. You are making changes to your life.
Yes.
By embarking on this inner journey.
Absolutely. And I love that you shared you may not see anything right away. The trusting in the process is a important practice and intention of how we get to live our lives. So though we're not seeing the immediate results, the energy of trust and the energy of being grateful for just this existence is already just what you get to experience. And that's it. That's it. And that can be very, like you said, challenging and discombobulating if we're always used to performing and doing and needing to see results right away. And so it's great that actually, in order to have this full life expression of a soul, of a human, you get to see like two parts of the coin.
And so we already did a session together.
Yeah. How was that?
And I think the first question I asked you, like after we finished, like, what now, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I did not feel a big difference in the moment, but I started to feel something has changed. Like I wouldn't say that I was enlightened from like one day to another, but I started to feel that something has changed. And it came in the form of sickness or illness, because after that I just started to have like a crazy headache. Then after that, like I had some problems with my nose, with my throat. My body was aching. I'm like, oh, okay. I was internalizing it as that, okay, something did change. Maybe I'm not noticing it just now, but my body does. And I took it as a sign of like purging or releasing whatever was there trapped for years and decades. Is this like a normal reaction?
It is, yeah. So people often may feel it's called like your body gets reactivated. So the body then can look like it's sick, or it's like sleepy and headache. So
I was exhausted.
yeah, you're moving a lot of
Yeah.
energy. Like it's like you're working out and you don't realize it. And so in that process, your body just needs to like stay still so that it can recalibrate on its own. So that's what your body was doing. It was reprocessing, it was purging, and the exhaustion is just allowing your body just to be still so it can reprocess.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that. And I think if I could do something differently about our session is that I would have given myself more time afterwards. Because
Yeah.
after the session, I drove another 1.5 hours back here. And then I had like a packed day, same day, the day after. And I didn't really allow myself to just like go through the experience and integrate and just feel what I need to feel and just heal. I just like threw myself back into the exact same thing, in the exact same rhythm, what I was doing before. So I think that's something that probably I would change
Okay.
for the next time for myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's good to let people know too, is because everyone's different. And even in this, it could be even longer than that day of like that spaciousness that you need, like a couple days just to reorient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still would like to stay on the healing session itself. So do you have any kind of like personal ritual or practice that you do as you are preparing for a session with someone?
Yeah. Before each session, I clear the space, using like Palo Santo or sage. I also then call in, I like to call them like my spirit team or our spirit team. I recognize that we are not doing this life by ourselves. There's other, you can call them spiritual guides. I like to also call in like the archangels to be very present with us in the session. And in that space, it's like it protects the session, protects the work that's being done.
And as we are progressing with the session, so that's what you do before. And during the session, what you do is that you keep on communicating with my body. So we don't speak at all.
Yeah.
you talk to my body. And you mentioned this at the very beginning of our conversation, that you are picking up signals and signs from my body. And through that method, you identify the beliefs that I'm holding. How does that work, and how do you decipher the body signals that's sent to you and to make sense behind it? So what do you look for? What's the process like?
Yes, so there's muscle testing that's involved. So when we test the body, we ask the body to say certain statements. And if the body is weak, then that identifies that the body doesn't necessarily believe that statement, meaning like it's either a stress response or it's like anxiety. I don't believe that. So we can say, for example, I love and accept myself. If it's weak, then that means that there is some kind of interference with then the full belief that you love and accept yourself. So then I would go in and I'd ask the body using your feet, and there's a protocol to use in understanding what like yes and no are. And so we'd go through on my end, like the yes and no to narrow down what frequency that is present, that is getting in the way of the true belief, 100% belief that you love and accept yourself fully.
What I'm still trying to understand is that how does my body tell you words, or you only ask yes and no questions?
I ask yes and no questions, and there's a frequency list that I pull from. So my teacher and his teacher, they've created a list of energy frequency words. So I am not coming up with these words. I'm asking yes and no to tell me what's on the list. And what's on the list then narrows down the frequency that is either getting in the way from your full belief that you love and accept yourself, or it can be a supportive word, a supportive frequency that then we are bringing into your body and space.
How does my body know what's on that list?
Your body knows. Your body knows. This is also one aspect of us. I like how you again described our body as like a computer. It knows, though our conscious brain doesn't know. Yeah. So it reads everything. So it holds the information that our conscious brain can't fathom or hold on to, because we're also just, we need to eat. Like we need to continue to live and to feed ourselves and to reproduce. So we're focused on other things, while our body is this great intelligence that holds on to this memory. And it can hold on this memory. And we also have now like the different technology out there to release the memory that doesn't serve us.
Yeah, very interesting. So this was the one that we did together.
Yes.
Yeah. But I know that you are doing some other stuff as well.
Yes.
You have a program called INTUIT.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit about that? What is that, and who is this for?
Thank you for asking. Yes. So INTUIT is a 6-week program for women that desire to connect deeper with their intuition. So intuition is the knowing without fully understanding. It is that gut feeling, right? That like suspicion, that instinct of, I need to go over there. I don't know why I need to go over there, but something is telling me to do so. And the more that we listen to our intuition, the more that we create the world that we desire, because it's about trusting that part of ourselves. It's almost like trusting this other sense that is there for us. And I feel that we have been in a space that's been relied so much on the mental, so much on the logic, and so much of like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Why am I doing this? That we lose out on actually what we desire and to live out our dreams. There was a suspicion on this call that I should be in Bali when I was in Los Angeles, but it didn't make sense to me. It's like, I have a business here, I have clients here. Why would I go to Bali? And I finally listened, and it was like, oh, like there's also a whole other part of myself and my desires and my dreams that's actually here. So in this process of listening to our intuition is also a process of self-discovery. It's a process of knowing yourself. And the more that we know ourselves, the more that we trust ourselves, the more that we have certainty in our lives and move with life with certainty, with confidence, and with clarity. And so this program is for women to connect deeper to that part of themselves so that they can move with life with confidence, with clarity, and be supported with other women, and creating this community of women that are up to really big things, and that we're going to hold each other high.
I absolutely love that. And why is it only for women? Because like as a man, it also resonates with me.
Absolutely.
And not just me as a person, but I think so many people out there, they are in the journey of self-discovery, self-realization, self-actualization, because people are fundamentally looking for alignment in their life.
Absolutely.
And intuition is
Yes.
a way to find that kind of alignment. So why did you choose to focus only on women? Is it just like, oh, that's a great niche, or is there a reason?
I decided to focus on women because, me being a woman, I wanted to just also create the space of some of the commonalities that maybe women go through. And so there is going to be an intuition for men, and that's going to be led by my friends that are men and coaches, and they have their take on the male's experience. So I wanted to first create a space for something with the women's lens, and then the men's lens. And then also then once we come through in those groups, then opportunities to come together in that. So I'm so grateful that you are excited for also and curious about the journey of getting deeper into intuition, because you're recognizing that it is part of how we can get alignment to our purpose, alignment to our highest vision of ourselves. And so I was just intuitive women. Like, first, let me work with women, because that's what I can personally have my experiences as a woman can offer. And letting my friends and their experience and what the social expectations of being a man that actually can inhibit and create a disorientation to our intuition. So it's going to explore what are the ways that where our intuition may have been hijacked because of the expectations that we have of ourselves of being a woman in this day and age, as well as what are the different programmings that we've done that we've experienced when we were children and being a girl, to then now how to reframe that and trust ourselves.
As you are speaking about it, I think the reason why it also resonates with me so much is that me operating in the material world, like I'm the person who made most of his decisions with this one and not with my intuition. A couple of years ago, I started changing my New Year's resolutions in a way that I only set one intention. And this has been an intention that's been like recurring for a number of years for me already, is to start making decisions more with my heart and my intuition rather than with my brain. Because I felt that I was already like so disconnected from that, and I was trying to justify my actions logically. So what you are saying is that how women are conditioned in this life right now, this kind of like pushes them to operate more here and make more, is it more like a masculine thing to operate from here versus here, or is there any difference between feminine or masculine when it comes to listening to your mind or your intuition? I don't know, I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, I think often we can think as mental as masculine, and the emotional side is more of the feminine.
Okay.
But also, we have both. So we have both the emotions and we have both of the our mental capacity. So, and I have masculine and a feminine, right? You have masculine and feminine side. And so the aspect of being in relationship with both of those things, and it goes beyond just the emotions, but it's into the unknown. You know, the mental is the known. It's the figuring out. It's
Yeah.
the I know what A plus B is equal C. And the intuition is the darkness, is like, I have no idea how that came into my field, but I'm going to trust it and I'm going to just go with it. And that is what we are repairing the relationship with, I believe, is strengthening our relationship with that gut feeling and that instinct.
And the program that you guys are leading on this topic, it's all about helping others to reconnect with their true authentic self through this program.
So the program allows people to connect to their authentic self. It allows them to listen to their body signals. What is a yes? What is a no? It allows them to speak up and to recognize their sovereignty. We'll be going in through issues around how we relate to use our intuition in relationship with others, how we can create, if we need boundaries, or how we can create better choices with just advocating for what we need. We also create a space for women to connect with other women in how other people are leading their lives. So it's a space for women to recognize that their intuition is pretty powerful, that it can open a lot of opportunities that they may not have thought as possible. And this is a space where people can just come back to trusting themselves. I love how you initially said, is this a space for women to come back and be their authentic self? Absolutely, because it first comes back to trust and acceptance of who we are and what shows up, even the parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily like or we deem like are not acceptable. The more that we can be honest with ourselves, with everything, the more that we can listen to our intuition. But if we are changing ourselves to fit society's expectations, if we're changing ourselves because we want our lover or family to accept us, then we're not listening to our inner compass. We are then listening and to what other people are telling us, and we're taking in their projections instead of following what our soul's guidance is.
And you are molding yourself into a reality that was created by someone else and not by you.
Absolutely. I love how this is full circle in terms of we are creating our reality. And so if you are not listening to your own powerful compass, then whose reality are you creating? It's kind of like people are, people have said the non-playable character.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, they're a non-playable character. You become a non-playable character if you're not listening to yourself. You become a non-playable character if you are just there and allowing someone else's projections to then control how you act. So it's almost like we each have a certain brightness about ourselves, but if we're not in true resonance and alignment, what we really want and what we really desire, then that brightness fades. that energy then just becomes weakened. And then you're becoming a non-playable character in someone else's story.
So how not to be an NPC?
I love this question now.
So the way is that we need to find our true authentic self first so we can create the reality that's true to us.
Absolutely.
How can entrepreneurs, leaders, executives do that while they are navigating all these different kind of areas in life, like career, health, relationships? So would you have any recommendations or practices or tips or strategies that they could follow?
Yeah, it's kind of going back to how we started of what people are struggling with, right? People are struggling with either anxiety or lack of acceptance of themselves or feeling stuck, right? So if we are feeling stuck and feeling in this space of like being distraught and in this current state of either fear or depression, then we're not really accessing our true power, right? It's clear. We're not accessing our true power because we're in fear mode. So first, let's get ourselves out of the fear. Let's get ourselves out of away from depression and loss. And we are moving in a space of forgiveness, right? Forgiveness of self, acceptance of what has happened, seeing things as blessings for our greatest and highest future. And once we come from that space of forgiveness of the past and then forgiveness of ourselves, then we can come to a place of also acknowledging and answering these questions with authenticity. Who are you, right? Who am I? Why am I here? Like, and when we can really answer that question of like, I'm here to be a being of love. I'm here to be a messenger of higher consciousness. No matter what anyone tells me, no matter what circumstances are out there, I'm anchored that I know who I am. So once you get through the like lower energy of that, of kind of like this heaviness, then we're able to come back to ourselves and you're able to recognize who you are and answer that question. So once you are able to really answer that question with like certainty and love and acceptance, that's when then you can conquer anything. Then anything that comes your way, a sudden job loss, a sudden breakup, a sudden fire, shutdown, whatever happens in our reality, it doesn't matter. It loses its weight because it's like, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. Whatever happens, I'm going to move through it. I don't know how. You don't need to know how. I think our logic brain wants to figure out and fixate on the how, but we get to just focus on who we are and where we want to go. So how do we see ourselves in the future? Do we see ourselves with family? Do we see ourselves just being successful in everything that we do? Do we see ourselves being happy? Trusting that it's already there for us, being happy in the present moment, seeing success in the moment of what you do have now, acknowledging the family that you do have now. That is the energy and the frequency that then you're going to create more momentum and receive more of.
I absolutely love that answer. And it gives me another question is that, so this is a process to get from A to B. A being the starting point where I don't know myself, I don't know who I am, and I would like to get to the point where I know exactly who I am and what I'm capable of. So you need to get there somehow.
Yeah.
And it's not a linear process. It's like ups and down, ups and down, ups and down.
Absolutely.
And from my experience is that you start making progress, but then something happens that kind of like challenges that belief about yourself that you have already developed. So it kind of like the self-doubt kind of like cripples into your mind every once in a while. Would you have any kind of recommendation for like a very short, simple practice that people could incorporate in their daily lives to tackle this kind of moments?
It's going to happen because when you grow, when you evolve, there's going to be a new level of yourself, right? And because it's new, it's common to be like, oh, what is this? I'm new. I'm not quite sure how it's going to look. But what I have found effective is actually my routine in believe it or not, like just my workouts, my routine in doing something and breaking through something that's hard and challenging, but I broke through it. So I took something that's hard and then I translate that into, oh, this is hard. I can do that too. So it's like when you create a routine of something that you're practicing going beyond your edge, then you can translate to different areas in your life. So I like to set different like intentions with myself weekly of like, what's an edge? What is something that I haven't tried before that I get to experience and see what happens? And when you get in a practice of doing something new and you're safe or you made a mistake, but whatever, you're still here, then you're training the body that it's safe to do new things. And so when something new comes your way, you're actually in a state of like, oh, I can handle it. But if you're used to not taking those small leaps, if you're kind of just comfortable in doing your daily routine without looking for an edge, then maybe when an opportunity comes your way that's new, the doubt may be a lot bigger than your conviction. So you just want to get in a practice of building yourself and getting out of your comfort zone and trying something new.
And build that level of trust that
Yep.
I'm going to be able to overcome this edge because I already have the proof that I have overcome this edge in this and this and this occasion.
Exactly.
Maybe not exactly the same situation, but in another area of life.
Yes.
It just reminded me to a very quick story. A couple of weeks ago, we had this incubator gathering in this house, and there was a friend who was visiting from Malaysia, and she was terrified to sit on a motorbike, on the exact same motorbike where you were sitting now. But she pushed through. That was her edge. And then she got on it again and again and again. And then after that, she messaged me that she started to practice like facing these kind of edges with the motorbike first, but then in other areas of life where she experienced an edge when she wanted to put a price out there for her services and she felt very uncomfortable about that before. So that was another edge for her. But after this experience that, oh, okay, I can get on a motorbike, I can tell the price that I actually want to have for my services. And then after that, she was just so happy that like, yes, I did it. And I feel pumped, like, I'm able to push through anything now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? As we are coming to the end of this, is there anything that you would like to put out there that you think that some people may get wrong about the field of work that you do or some of the teachings that you have, maybe some misconceptions that you would like to address?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel people can have this friction between the spiritual community and the science community. Like it's very real. And I want to say that we're on the same team and we're looking at the universe. We're looking at ourselves, right? But we're taking different points, different perspectives to get to the same place. And so I just want to acknowledge that like the science and the spiritual is working together, like can work together as what we've like described in the Cellular Resonance Quantum Healing. Like it is so much in support of our evolution as humans. And just want to bring into the space, and this invitation to have more conversations with that lens, with bringing the science and the spirituality together in the same room.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been really enlightening. I'm pretty sure so many people are going to find inspiration in this conversation.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it got into like different places I didn't think that we would get to. And so I'm just so grateful. Thank you for having me.